Hello everybody. My last video on my YouTube channel was about how sections of the Manusmriti are offensive to women, and this time, last time when I was doing the video, I had promised that I would do another video showing or reading out sections of the Manusmriti that are actually offensive to Shudras. And of course, many things came in between, and I just couldn't continue doing what I wanted to do. Uh, Most of all, the most juicy information for me was that the terrorist turned MP Pragya Thakur actually made a speech in which she said that Brahmin people are not offended when you call them Brahmins, but why are Shudras offended when you call them Shudras? And in response, I had actually tweeted something that Periyar said, which is that, if somebody is called a Shudra, then it actually means that you're calling them the son of a whore, the son of a prostitute, you're calling them a slave, you're saying that their birth is disgraced, blah, blah, blah. And that's why people are rejecting the Shudra tag, which is why there's so much, anger against it. So finally, I am actually tempted to read the Tamil version of what Periyar said. It's trademark Periyar, but I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to continue on my earlier promise, which was to read sections of the Manusmriti which deal with Shudras. Now, and this is social media, this is YouTube. I'm a writer novelist, and I don't really do YouTube videos, and I also find it very difficult to go and answer criticism about me, which is not about me. So for one of those big stories out there is that Meena Kandasamy is a Varna, possibly Brahmin, and that's why she's talking about all of this. No, I'm not. My mom is a Shudra, a lower caste, servant class. She's a lower caste Shudra by birth, and my father is a nomadic tribe. And they had an anti-caste, intercaste marriage, so I am of mixed birth, and I reject caste absolutely. I don't think I belong to either of their caste, and I don't know where I belong. And I'm sure I belong somewhere outside or somewhere very much at the bottom of the pit, but that's where it is. So coming to what is Shudra. So Hindu Sanatana Dharma, Manu Dharma, varnashrama Dharma, whatever you call it, has a fourfold gradation of the caste system, and Shudras are at the bottom of the system. And I'm not going to, at the top of the priestly class of the Brahmins. Next are the Kshatriyas, or the so-called ruling or the warrior caste. And third is the Vaishyas, or the trading class. And the last is the Shudras, or the servant class. So for my reading, can you see the book? Yeah, I'm using the Laws of Manu, translated by Wendy Doniger. And so where do we start? Let me start at the beginning. So right at the beginning, we are here in chapter 1, and this is about the creation of man. And this is chapter 1, verse 31. And so that the worlds and the people would prosper and increase, from his mouth he created the priest, from his arms the ruler, from his thighs the commoner, and from his feet the servant. And whenever Doniger uses servant, she's actually referring to the Shudra caste. So the priest refers to the Brahmin, the ruler refers to the Kshatriya, the commoner refers to the Vaisya, and the servant refers to Shudra. So where it says servant, I'm reading it as Shudra. And Shudra, of course, if you're wondering what Shudra, I think an easier classification is to look at the OBC list. So Shudra is today's OBCs, and you'll know why Pragya Thakur cannot go around calling anyone Shudra this and Shudra that. And this is chapter 1, verse 91. The Lord assigned only one activity to the Shudra, serving the other classes without resentment. And this is from chapter 2, and this is about naming. I thankfully have a very Tamil name. I escaped this Manusmriti shit. So my Tamil name is Ilavenil, which means the spring season. But it's a name I don't use, which I feel very guilty about. But here you see how names are supposed to be given. The name of a priest, the name of a Brahmin should have a word for auspiciousness, of a Kshatriya, a word for strength, of a Vaisya, property, and the name of a Shudra should breed disgust. The name of a Brahmin should have a word for secure comfort, of a Kshatriya it should have protection, of a Vaishya it should be connected with prosperity, and of a Shudra it should be connected with service. So now we go to... Okay, so you would think I think I'm missing something, but there's something very interesting here. So you know that whenever people speak about Shudra caste, one of the specialities of this caste, at least in Tamil Nadu, where you don't necessarily have a Kshatriya caste, where you don't necessarily have such a proportion of the artisan. Everybody is an OBC. Most people are Shudra except for the Brahmins and Dalits, and therefore this Shudra caste is the one which is at the forefront of basically being so anti-intercaste marriage, anti-marrying Dalit people who are so full of, their own caste pride. So this is a very good reminder to dear Shudra people that where do you rank? You are so particular about controlling backward caste Shudra women, but where do you come in the eyes of Manusmriti? So according to tradition, only a Shudra woman can be the wife of a Shudra. She and one of his own class can be the wife of a Vaisya. These two and one of his own class for a Kshatriya, and these three and one of his own class for a Brahmin. Not a single story mentions a Shudra woman as the wife of a Brahmin or a Kshatriya, even in extremity. This is chapter 3, verse 14. And then this is the juicy part for Shudra women. And I'm addressing backward class Shudra women as well, telling you this is where you are in the system, telling you that you have to reject the system, just as all of us have to reject this caste system. Twice born men who are so infatuated so as to marry women of low caste quickly reduce their families, including their descendants, to the status of servants, to the status of Shudras. And then the 17th verse, cherry on the cake. A Brahmin who climbs into bed with a Shudra woman goes to hell. If he begets a son in her, he loses the status of a Brahmin. So Shudra women, whether knowingly or unknowingly, have also been blessed with the power of sending Brahmin men straight to hell. I like that. This is chapter 3, verse 250. If a man climbs into bed with a Shudra woman, on the same day he has enjoyed a meal at a ceremony for the dead, his ancestors have to lie in her excrement for a month. Wow. So you don't only send this guy to hell, you don't only make sure that he doesn't have redemption, but you also make sure that his ancestors are going to be rotting in your shit. Wow. That's how much the system hates the Shudra people. today who are so proud of being BJP's vote bank, if you think about this. So, well, I'm just going to go ahead with the reading. Okay, I just go and do the juicy parts. I leave the others to do the serious bits. So yeah, so I just finished Shudra women, so I just thought I'd come to Shudra men. This is chapter 8. A man of the Shudra class who cohabits with someone of the twice born caste, that is Brahmin, Vaishya, Kshatriya, guarded or unguarded, loses his sexual member, Manu is referring to the penis, and all his property, if the person was unguarded, and his entire body and property, if the person was guarded. So basically, if he was cohabiting, even having consensual sex, the Shudra man was having consensual sex with somebody higher than him, the punishment for that is castration and extending up to the death penalty. This is very interesting to bear in mind. And on the other hand, you also have the rudiments of a casteist judiciary already in Manu. We see this all the time. When Banwari Devi is raped, nobody goes to jail. When Fulan Devi is raped, there's no justice, because when things happen like this to lower caste women, the system still follows Manu. So when the priest does the same thing, a priest or the ruling class, a priest who has sex with an unguarded woman of the Vaishya caste of the ruling class or with a woman of the Shudra class should be fined 500 pennies. So for a priest it's just a fine. For a Shudra man, they're just going to cut off his whatever. Okay, so going a little bit away from sex. This is end of chapter 8 and tells what the king should do. So he may, however, make a Shudra do the work of a slave, whether he is bought or not, for the self-existent one created him to be the slave of the priest. Even if he is set free by his master, a Shudra is not set free from slavery, for since that is innate in him, who can take it away from him? So that's also how this system, under which, broadly all the Shudras are so happy to embrace the Hindu identity, but the system looks at you only as a slave, and not only calls you a slave, but also says that slavery is innate in you, like it's coming from deep within you. And now there's chapter 9. And in this chapter, okay, again you have some duties. The Shudra's duty and supreme good is nothing but obedience to famous priestly householders who know the Vedas. If he is unpolluted, obedient to his superiors, gentle in speech, without a sense of I, and always dependent on the priest and the other twice-born classes, he attains a superior birth in his next life. So this is how they also fool you, believing that you just got a better life waiting for you. So, okay. And there's some more about the Shudra people. If a Shudra is searching for means, this is chapter 10. If a Shudra is searching for means of livelihood, he may make himself useful to a ruler, it is said, or a Shudra may try to make a living by making himself useful to wealthy Vaishya. But he should make himself useful to Brahmins, either for the sake of heaven or for the sake of both worlds, for by the mere word Brahmin he achieves what is to be done. Serving priests alone is recommended as the best innate activity of a servant, for whatever he does other than this bears no fruit for him. The Brahmin should assign him a livelihood out of their own family property, taking into account his ability, his skill, and the number of his dependents. They should give him the leftovers of their food, their old clothes, the spoiled parts of their grain, and their worn-out household utensils. A servant should not amass wealth. This is chapter 10, 129. A Shudra should not amass wealth, even if he has the ability, for a Shudra who has amassed wealth annoys priests. You really see that happening. And so this is quite a very interesting book. And I really wanted to share all of this because, today we are living in this political spectrum where, on the one hand, there's all of these efforts to, bring back, varnashrama dharma or a solidification of the caste system. And they're not just necessarily going to say, oh, we're bringing back Manu. But what they do is by denying Shudra people the right to be educated, denying Shudra people, OBC people, the adequate reservation that is the constitutional entitlement, and most of all by bringing more and more Shudra people into the fold of rabid Hindutva, by making them not just their vote banks but also making them anti-Muslim, anti-Dalit, anti-Christian, all of this in order to strengthen a vote bank, whereas everything that political Manuvadi, Brahmanism, political Manuvadi, RSS aims to do is actually to pull down the Shudras, because the Shudras, like when T. Doniger translates, is the servant class and they need Shudras to keep working for them. So yeah, that's with this I'm going to end my reading. This has been much briefer than my other reading, but yeah, just go and learn more. But yeah, I just wanted to share this. Thank you.